Hello students, a very warm welcome to Pragma Education. This is Shankar. I am the faculty who is about to deal the Indian polity, Indian governance of your Group 1 services. I had completed my Masters in Public Administration from Andhra University. Not only that, I am a renowned lawyer in Hyderabad itself. And more importantly, I do have an experience of about 8 years plus in the field of these competitive examinations, where I used to train the civils aspirants. And till date, I have already trained more than 5,000 members who were recruited under UPSC itself, like IPS and IRS officers. And today, as a part of our Pragma Education, we are going to deal with the Indian polity, the structure of that Indian polity with respect to the syllabus and all. Along with that, the governance aspects. So today, in this first important module, let us understand what exactly the syllabus is. Because understanding the syllabus is the most important area as an aspirant one should focus. And hence, we are here to help you out to understand the original syllabus of our Indian polity and governance. And it will be very helpful for you people who are seriously preparing for this examination. So, in that context, let us understand the syllabus part here. So, this is what our syllabus comprises of. Indian polity and constitution, where we are going to deal with Indian constitution and its silent features. Very, very important topic. The functions and duties of Indian Union and state governments. Let me say, it is your Parliament of India and state legislatures. The issues which are pertaining to the federal structure. Let me say your center-state relations. We are going to deal here. The role of governor in the states according to the recent Poonchi Commission report or the previous Sarkaria Commission recommendations. Along with that, the second ARC reports, which are very much important in the examination point of view. Distribution of powers between union and states. Let me say your CSR, center-state relations. And the challenges which are pertaining with respect to that center-state relations. Not only that, we are also going to concentrate as a part of our syllabus. We are going to concentrate on your 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts 1992, which is talking about your local self-government, nothing but your Panchayati Raj evolution, historical background, importance, because it is also a connecting dot to your governance aspect. The role of Gram Sabha there, 243 of A article. Likewise, we are also going to concentrate on the structure, functioning, role, responsibility, conduct of business, powers, privileges, issues arising in the parliamentary sessions, the parliamentary committees, the role which they are playing. So, all these with respect to Parliament of India and state legislatures, we are concentrating. And finally, we are also concentrating in your judiciary. What is independent judiciary? What is integrated judiciary? From where we adopted all these and all those important points, along with the powers, roles, and the jurisdiction and the judicature of the judiciary system which is there in India, and the Supreme Court judgments with respect to each and every aspect here, and the recent issues which are raised over a period of time from the past 5 years. If you do understand that there are some powers which were used in the context of judiciary, judicial review, public interest of litigation, judicial passivism, judicial activism, right, judicial encroach. So these type of words we are regularly coming into the newspapers, and that is where we actually do concentrate to clear this so-called module. And this is what in a specific manner, 5 important topics, 5 important units of your syllabus of Indian polity. Parallelly, we are also going to deal with the second important module. It is nothing but your public administration and governance, where the first chapter itself is talking about your PABAD, where we are going to concentrate on the meaning, nature, scope, significance, importance of the public administration, its evolution in the context of India as well as the world, the Weberian model, the Weberian bureaucracy, and what are the loops, what are the cadre systems which they are being allotting, the services which we are going to get. So all these falls under your first unit itself. Along with that, we are also going to talk about administration, the origin of administration through Kautilya's Saptanga theory or Kautilya's Ardhashastra. Along with that, the Mughal administration and the legacy of British rule. So, the Mughal administration and legacy of British rule, even in your history, you are going to cover as a part of your modern Indian context. But here in the polity context also, we are trying to give you that essence to understand a little bit a way forward mechanisms. Okay. Along with that, the most important is your government policies where the interventions of the development and the sectors which they have, and the problems of implementation. Why a policy, how a policy, what a policy, where a policy, when a policy, to whom the policy. So all these type of questions in one ground we can take it into consideration. And then development process, the role of civil society, the role of NGOs and other stakeholders like your citizens charter, all these falls under this context of your group 1 syllabus. Along with that, statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial authorities, their role, responsibilities and significance and importance of your civil services in democracy exclusively as a special chapter we are going to deal. And finally, the concept of good governance, evolution of good governance, what are the challenges of good governance, and then the enhancement mode. Let me say it is nothing but your e-governance concept. Okay, e-governance concept. Citizens Charter, RTI, Public Services Act and their implications, and the concept of social audit, which is very much important as of now, and it's important. So this is what exactly the so-called syllabus which was mentioned in Group 1 services for Andhra Pradesh. Okay, it is not only limited to Andhra Pradesh, even for Telangana as well. Not only for Telangana, it is the same which we need to focus even if you are preparing for UPSC civil services. Okay, so this is what the points were. Okay, so now as a part of our introductory class today, we are going to discuss about the historical background, the historical evolution of Indian polity constitution, so that it will be very easy for you to understand, to connect the dots while writing in your examination. Okay, so as a part of that, you need to realize that there is something which is important to be focused before preparing for this examination, especially in the context of the module Indian polity and governance. It is very, very important because everyone used to say that this is the easiest subject. Yes, it is easiest subject, but the point here is, provided you aspirants are having a conceptual clarity. If you do have that conceptual clarity, then it is very easy. And trust me, that conceptual clarity through this Pragma Education, we are here to help you out. Okay, so as a part of that, you need to understand that the Indian polity is a unique specimen in the world. And you know what? This unique specimen in the world are having 2 easily observable things which can define this specimen. And hence, let us understand that which is inherited long back as a part of the traditions of the democratic functioning, and even longer, which was existed previously. Okay, as a part of that, the democratic debate and discussions really made available in our society due to the advent of the Europeans or because of your British administration. This is the concept of the word constitution which evolved in our India. So basically we are having our own unique point, the body called politic, which is very, very unique in its way in India. And hence, to read Indian polity, it is thus advisable to read the proxy, the history, the culture and the cultural development along with the social development and the scenarios of challenges which we faced as Indians as a colony under the British. And hence I am requesting you to go through your modern India so that you can get that connecting dots. Where here we are also trying to provide you as a part of our module, but the thing here is, if you do understand better your modern India, then it will be very easy to understand the historical background, the historical underpinnings of Indian constitution. Okay, so in that context, Amma, the first important chapter which now we are going to enter, which we are going to analyze, which we are going to go in detail is the historical underpinnings of Indian constitution. So this is what the first important chapter, Amma. This is what the first important chapter, historical background of Indian constitution. But to understand this historical constitution, background of Indian constitution, first we need to understand what exactly do we mean by polity. What exactly do we mean by polity? So here, basically, Greeks are those fellows, let me say Aristotle. So keep a point in your mind, Amma, about your spa. Okay, spa. So what is this spa, sir? Spa is nothing but your Socrates, Plato and Aristotle. These are the political philosophies which evolved by the time of your European social, economic, cultural, philosophical, intellectual development. Let me say, in the sphere of enlightenment of the European world, these are the theories proposed by these three important personalities, where for the first time political philosophies came into picture in the context of understanding the way of administration by the world countries. And hence, here Aristotle is that fellow who for the first time coined the word constitution. Okay, for the first time. And you can also say that the Greeks introduced the word constitution and its evolution in the complete world countries. Okay, so now basically, as you know that monarchical form of governments came into picture, which was under the kingship. Basically, the society, if you do go into the deepest understanding of society, Amma, you need to understand that there are some gaps which got evolved. There are some gaps in the society, and to fill that gaps, there is a requirement, there is a demand from the society, and that is which made for the evolution of the word state. So basically, what do you mean by state? So there are four important features to remember, four important characteristics we can say to define a state. So basically, land, people, government and sovereignty. So these are the four important features to define a state. And you know what? It is having more important responsibility for the government here to look into the issues and the demands of the people, the aspirations of the people, so that welfare is possible. And now the point here is, at the initial days of its evolution, this government is based on two important political theories. One is divine origin theory. Okay, divine origin theory. Next, contract theory. Contract theory. Okay, so these are the two important theories, Amma, which is not a part of our syllabus, but for your understanding, I am giving this input. Okay, so divine origin theory, based on this, Amma, what raised in the sense monarchy, monarchical form of political structure raised. Based on contract theory, Amma, a republican form of political structures were raised. And you know what? Most of the time, you come across monarchical form of governments with an expectation that it is there to provide all the needs of the people, especially land resources, land and other so-called resources, natural resources are to be distributed among the people of the society is the major objective, is the major purpose behind these theories to develop. Okay, so in that context, monarchical forms raised, but it failed to reach the aspirations of the society. It failed to resolve the issues or to provide solutions for the demands of the society, and hence to counter that divine origin theory, let me say in other words, to counter that monarchical form of government, what raised in the sense the theory of checks and balances, which was proposed by Montesquieu, was raised. And based on that, we are now going to define government. Basically, government is having three important organs, which we are going to discuss it later in a couple of minutes, but try to understand the definition of the government here. So, government is nothing but it is a single unique entity or a group of entities which is having the highest decision making power for the betterment, for the better development and growth of the people of the society. In other words, for our understanding, we can simplify the definition by saying government is nothing but it is a body of a single unique member or a group of members who are having utmost power to take decisions for the better development and welfare of the people of the society. This is what the basic definition for the government. And for such a type of government, there are three important organs. One is your legislature, second is your executive, and third is your judiciary. And these three bodies, even though we say that these are the organs of the government, these three bodies are to be separated. But if they are separating then again monarchical form of development will come into picture. Let me say in other words, that they cannot run, that they cannot function without any cooperation. And hence what Montesquieu's theory is saying, that they are having the control over among themselves. Where judiciary is going to control the executive and legislature is going to control your executive and judiciary, and even executive can control your legislature and judiciary. So this is what checks and balances, balance of power is the theory under your Montesquieu's political theories. Okay, so based on this, let us understand our so-called chapter, the historical underpinnings of Indian Constitution. This is just an introduction, which is not a part of your syllabus, but go through if possible, which was provided in our material. And if you do have any doubts, please let us know. We are here to help you out. But here our focus is to provide you the most important examination point of view debate, examination point of view discussion. So in that context, Amma, we are going to discuss about what? The historical background of Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution. So basically, the historical background of Indian Constitution or the underpinnings of the evolution of Indian Constitution. Originally, to understand, I am connecting the dot with the modern Indian context. So you know it very well as a part of our modern India that 1600 is that year where the advent of your English East India Company who entered into India for trade. Okay. So slowly what happened, 1765 through Battle of Buxar. What happened? Through Battle of Buxar, Diwani rights were acquired. What do you mean by Diwani rights? The rights over revenue. Not only that, rights over revenue along with collection of taxes, imposing, levying and collection of taxes was the power given to your British to the areas of the present day Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. So these are the three most important regions. It is nothing but your Bengal province. So 1765 Buxar, not only Buxar, there are other many important battles which was fought by your British East India Company, English East India Company with the local rulers of that time. Finally, they slowly concentrated to introduce imperialistic characteristic features in India and they were successfully endowed with that. So the point here is the English East India Company's success in the form of British success can be statuted in various stages, and that stages, understanding those stages is nothing but your historical underpinnings which we are now going to concentrate. And as a part of that, the history of the constitutional evolution, you should remember a point, 1928 is that year. What is that year? 1928 with the name called Nehru Report, laid the foundation in India for the constitutional evolution for the first time officially. Okay, 1928. But most of the India was under the direct administration of the British right from 1857. In the form of 1858 Government of India Act to 1947 Indian Independence Act. So the point here is you need to understand, even though we say that it is the foundation for the evolution of historical evolution of our Indian Constitution, but the point here you need to understand is there are some stages prior to this, and now we are going to concentrate on that. And as a part of that, the first important act which laid the British for the centralization, the first step for the British for the centralization is your 1773 Regulating Act. Okay, 1773 Regulating Act. So basically what happened, over a series of battles which was fought by the British and the local rulers here in India, slowly they started for centralization in India. But by that time, India was completely under the East India Company, Okay, under the East India Company. Whereas there are three major provinces by that time under the British administration, under the company's administration, let me say, and that is what we call it as Bombay Province. Very, very important points. Bombay Province, your Madras Province, and here Bengal province, Bengal province. But the point here to understand is each province is having their own governors. Each province is having their own governors. Means Bengal is having Bengal governor, Madras governor, and Bombay governor. And those are not responsible collectively to the British government. Keep this point in your mind. So basically what happened, because of that, corruption was increased. See, in modern India, you might come across a point saying that all the British officers, either through the company or under the direct administration of the British, are having only one major strong intention in their mind. And what is that? It is nothing but that to come to India, get corrupted mostly, earn maximum for their lineages to have a wonderful life, a luxurious life, and after retirement, go back to their hometown. Let me say, go back to the British England itself and let us settle here. So this is what the intention and the mindset of each and every officer or the soldiers who came to India. Not only India, it is the same even for other colonies as well. But now here in our context, as corruption was increased, as these are not collectively responsible, finally what happened, 1772 is that year. 1772 is that year where for the first time the British government appointed General Bluroyin Committee. Okay, General Bluroyin Committee. And this General Bluroyin Committee is a secret committee appointed by the British to look into the issues of the corruption and the functioning of the East India Company in India. And this committee submitted its report to the British Parliament, in the year 1773, and based on that report, what came into existence? 1773 Regulating Act came into existence. And this is what exactly, for the first time in India, a step taken by the British with the name called regulating the affairs of the East India Company in India. But for our context, it is the first step taken by the British to centralized administration in India by the Britishers through the company. So this is what the point. And now for the examination point of view, what are the important points to remember under this 1773 Regulating Act? And for your examination, keep a point, all these points you need to remember. And here I am trying to provide you in the examination point of view itself. No need to go in detail analysis to those topics. Specifically for our module Indian Polity and Governance, what we are saying, try to write as it is in the examination to get a better score. I can assure you that. So now, what are the important points of your 1773 Regulating Act was? And along with this Regulating Act, there are many other acts which now we are going to discuss as a part of our discussion. And now, as you know that this is the first time that the British Parliament took a step to control the affairs of the East India Company. First step to control the affairs of English East India Company in India. Okay. The second important point to remember is Bengal Governor was made as Bengal Governor General. For the first time, a new position was created, Bengal Governor General. Warren Hastings was made as the Bengal Governor General. Not only that, for this Bengal Governor General, a council was added. So 4-member Indian Council was also made available. Okay. And now it is very important to understand, sir, what exactly these were. See, in the previous slide discussion, we have made it clear that there are unique governors for each and every province there, right? And now, as a part of this 1773 Regulating Act to India, this so-called Bengal governor was made as Governor General of Bengal, and this Madras and Bombay provinces were kept under the control of Bengal Governor General. So this is what we call it as the first step taken by the British for the centralized administration. So for the examination, prelims examination, which among the following acts, the first step taken by the British for the centralized administration in India for the first time, and hence your answer would be your 1773 Regulating Act. It is not only that, for the first time, the system of collector also got introduced. System of collector also got introduced with a primary purpose to levy and collect the taxes on the land revenue systems and all. Okay. Not only that, for the first time, judiciary system, an official judicial administration was also started by the British in India. And for that, Fort William at your Calcutta. Okay, Fort William at Calcutta. Supreme Court for the first time was established. And for this Supreme Court, the first Chief Justice is your Sir Elijah Impey. Sir Elijah Impey. And this is comprising of 1 + 3, total 4 members. 4 members. Okay. So under Sir Elijah Impey, Supreme Court was established. First step taken by the British for the centralized administration, where for the first time Bengal Governor General is the designation and post which got introduced, where Warren Hastings is the first among that. And it is having an advisory council called Executive Council, Indian Council, 4-member Executive Council was also got introduced. And finally, the system of collector was also got introduced. So these are the major important points for the first time. And you know what? General Bureauin Committee is that committee, right? Secret committee with a purpose to look into the issues of the affairs of the East India Company, and hence it clearly stated what corruption was more in the context of Indian colony. And hence obviously what is the last point to remember here? That it not encouraged the people, let me say it not encouraged the company officials to get corrupted. Bribes, gifts and so-called things like many other so-called various sources completely got abolished and strict laws were introduced. So this is what your 1773 Regulating Act. And you know what? This is that act for the first time, licenses were being extended to the company. So 20 years of license was got extended to the company, and it is a general thing, general point for everything. But for the examination, just keep focus on these 5 important points. Okay. And then comes your Pitt's India Company. Pitt's India Act. Pitt's India Act, 1784. Okay, Sir John Pitts, by that time 1780s, made as the Prime Minister for the Britain, and the primary purpose of this act is to look into the affairs of the company after implementing 1773 Regulating Act, how far it is successful. Okay, how far it is successful is the primary agenda before this so-called Pitt's India Act. And basically, what are the important points of this Pitt's India Act in the sense, for the first time, the commercial and political functions of the company got separated. What is that? Commercial and political functions of the East India Company got separated. And you know what? The court of directors was made. Court of directors were made available to look into the commercial activities of the company, and for the political activities of the company, board of control was appointed. So this is the unique point to remember under your 1784 your Pitt's India Act. And you know what? From this time onwards, for the first time in India, they introduced a new concept called British possessions. British possession. What do you mean by possession? Possession means grabbing the land unlawfully. So, if anyone failed to pay the taxes, then their lands were completely under the control of the British. British will grab that land. And for the first time, British possessions got introduced. Not only that, governor councils. See, Bengal Governor General for Bengal region, and to this, what are those? Bombay and Madras, and for these, we are having governors as well, right? For this, there to assist a 4-member council. Likewise, even for this Bombay and Madras governors, executive councils got introduced for the first time. So the point here you need to understand is these 3 important points under Pitt's India Act 1784. I hope I am clear. And now the next important act under historical underpinnings is your Charter Act 1833. Sorry, Charter Act 1813. Okay, Charter Act 1813. For the first time, this act ended the English East India Company's monopoly over the trade in India, except over tea and opium. Okay, except over tea and opium. Trade with India was open to all the British citizens. So for the first time, 1813 is the Charter Act, which produced a lot for this. Not only that, it encouraged for the English education in India. Thus, by allotting a fund of 1 lakh rupees, I converted that, okay, 1 lakh rupees per year. Not only that, Christian missionaries were also got introduced in India with 2 major objectives. One is to spread Christianity in India and to propagate the English education awareness in India. There is a lot of positive as well as negative with respect to your Christian missionaries, which you will come across in your modern Indian context. Not only that, British also tried a lot to encourage the Indians to develop the scientific temperament through English education. So these are the points which you need to remember under 1813 Charter Act. Vernacular languages committees also provided the same. And based on all those reports, commissions, this act was made available in India. And after that, your Charter Act 1833 came into picture. 1833, for the first time, the Governor General of Bengal was designated as Governor General of India. So coming to this, Bengal Governor General now became as Governor General of India, and the first Governor General of India was your William Bentinck. Who is that? William Bentinck. William Bentinck is that fellow. Okay, this is the first point to remember. And there was a logic here. 1813, they encouraged for English education, right? Obviously, 20 years completed means almost a generation completed, and we Indians were also very much got educated, the English Western education, and hence we are now going to demand for the employment, for the equal employment opportunities along with the Britishers. Especially in the civil services, Indian civil services. I hope I am clear. So 1833 is that point. Not only that, under this Governor General of India, a Central Executive Council was also created with 6 members, and among these 6 members, 4 members were appointed by the provincial governments. 4 members appointed by the provincial governments, and the rest 2 were directly nominated by the Governor General of India. Provincial governments in the sense, there are 3 major provinces by that time, your Bengal, Bombay and Madras. Okay, from these 3 it got. And the Indian civil services was opened as a means to recruit officers for the administration through open competition. So 1853 is that which is focusing on that. So these are the important points under your 1833 Charter Act. So after 1833 Charter Act, what happened? World War came into picture. And based on that World War in the sense, let me say, not directly World War, there are some important events in your modern India. Let me say the reformations which carried out, westernization in India carried out, educational values they started to inculcate in the Indian culture, and they were successful in that. But all of a sudden, because of some reasons which you come across in your modern India again, like an immediate cause, political, economic, social causes, and as a part of your cultural enlightenment in India, 1857 is that year, the first war of independence according to V.D. Savarkar, your Sepoy Mutiny took place. So 1857 Sepoy Mutiny, to understand here as a link for the historical underpinnings, that for the first time the British also realized that the unity, communal unity, let me say the religious unity, the religious harmony of India, if it is being strengthening, then it will directly affect the British at any cost. And that is the reason why they started to introduce divide and rule policy as an ideological thought for the first time in India. And based on that, post 1857, let me say result of 1857 revolt in India, 1858 Government of India Act was made available. 1858 Government of India Act was made available, and here you need to understand the rule of company was completely ended. Okay, it is not just monopolyum, the rule of the company was directly ended, completely ended, where the direct administration of the British under the Queen's Regency started in India, and hence through this act we can call India as British India. So now for the first time, the office of Viceroy and Secretary General for the state of India was created, and this is that person who is having a cabinet rank of the British Parliament. Okay, cabinet rank holder of the British Parliament. And not only that, under this Viceroy, a 15 member council, executive council was also made available. In other words, we can say a small diagrammatic representation for your understanding that administration will start at the top hierarchy called British Queen. Under the British Queen, we are having what? The British Parliament. The British Parliament, where in this British Parliament we are having British government, nothing but your Prime Minister and Council of Ministers of the Britain, and in this we are having a cabinet, and one member of that cabinet status, a member of that cabinet status will represent India in such a way where he is going to made available as a part of administrative developments in India, along with the Viceroy, who was going to be assisted by 15-member council. And hence under this, who are there? Secretary for the State of India, Secretary General or Secretary for the State of India, plus Viceroy, along with this 15-member council, and under them we are having Governor of your Bombay and Governor of your Madras. Okay, and under them we are having executive councils as well, and the system of collector got continued to collect the taxes. So this is what the most important point for your 1858 Government of India Act. Okay, so the point here is, who was the first Viceroy of India? Lord Canning. Okay, Lord Canning was the first Viceroy of India. Okay, so now after 1858 Government of India Act, as it was made available, that Indian Council, it increased the number. Initially it is 4, next 6, now 15. But no Indians were seen as a part of that council, and hence our demand, the constitutional demands put forth by your parties by that time, local parties. I am not talking about political parties, I am talking about the groups and associations. So for better administrative feasibility here, for the first time, based on the demands raised by the Indians, 1861 Indian Councils Act was made. 1861 Indian Councils Act was made, where 3 Indians for the first time were made as the members of your Legislative Council of Viceroy. Under Viceroy, 3 Indians were got placed. So the question for the day, who are those 3 Indians who got placed under this 1861 Indian Councils Act for the first time? Not only that, these 3 Indians are the non-official members. These are not official members, these are the non-official members. Keep this point in your mind, okay? And then comes, for the first time, decentralization of presidencies also got introduced. Decentralization of presidencies got introduced in such a way that the Madras and Bombay being restored their legislative powers. In other words, we can say Bombay, they themselves can make the laws, Madras, they themselves can make the laws under the governor and their council, and they can implement in their so-called provinces. And you know what? But while taking those type of laws, decisions, they should be answerable to the Viceroy. The final decision rests with the Viceroy. And this is what your 1861 Indian Councils Act was made available. Not only that, after this 1861, The same Indian Councils Act, 1892 was made available. 1892 was made available, where for the first time in indirect elections, let me say nominated candidates got introduced. Indirect elections got introduced. In other words, we can say nominated. Okay, keep this point in your mind. Okay, nominated, indirect elections got introduced, nominated got introduced. Okay, and not only that, legislative councils got expanded. Legislative councils got expanded in such a way, more functions to the legislative councils, as discussion of budget, questioning the executive, all these type of points got introduced through your 1892. And after that, the first most important point in our examination to remember is your 1909. What is that? 1909. 1909. Morley-Minto reforms got introduced. Morley-Minto reforms got introduced. Morley-Minto reforms got introduced in India. Okay, 1909 Morley-Minto reforms were also called Indian Councils Act 1909. Okay, 1909 Indian Councils Act, also called Morley-Minto reforms. Morley-Minto reforms. And you know what? The more important points to remember were direct elections. Okay, direct elections got introduced to the legislative councils for the first time. Direct elections got introduced for the legislative councils for the first time. And the number of legislative council was increased from 16 to 60. 16 to 60 members got introduced. And the concept of separate communal electorate was also got introduced. Concept of separate communal electorate. Why, you know? See, you need to understand your modern India connecting dot here. 1905 is that year where Bengal partition happened under your Lord Curzon. And right from 1902, as an announcement when it was made, your protest started. And after that, the moderates even realized that pray, plead, beg mechanism, pray, plead, petition mechanism, constitutional developments through constitutional obligations, they cannot achieve Swaraj, also realized by the moderate fellows, but they were intended to be the part as a loyal group for the Britishers, and hence that all those aspirations, requests, demands, petitions made by your moderates group was completely kept aside, and they fulfilled their criteria. And there was a promise made by the Lord Curzon, the then Viceroy, in the year 1902 itself, for the minorities, Muslim minorities. He is that first fellow who inculcated the concept of minorities, and that is being carrying in India even today. Okay, so saying that they have to represent their own community, religious community, in the legislative councils, and they encouraged to have their own party system. Okay, so that is what we call it as communal electorate. So 1905 partition of Bengal happened. 1907 your Surat split was happened, where extremists and moderates got split from your INC. And as a result of that, 1909 Indian Councils Act was made, where the promise made by the British for communal electorate. So for the first time, the communal electorate got introduced in India through 1909 Indian Councils Act. Indian Councils Act. And now the point here is the concept when it was got accepted, the question for the day, who was the father of communal electorate in India? Okay, obviously the Viceroy here, Okay, so who is that Viceroy among Morley or Minto is the question. Just go and comment in the section. Okay, so this is what the point, Amma. And now you know what, as nominated members, direct elections, all these came into picture for the first time. In India, an Indian was made as the member of the Viceroy's Executive Council. For the first time, a directly elected member who was an Indian in the Viceroy's Executive Council was made, and the fellow was Satyendra Prasad Sinha. Okay, as the law member, he was made as the member of Executive Council under the Viceroy. And then comes your 1919 important points. The next important act under your historical underpinnings. What is that? 1919. Okay, 1919 Government of India Act was made by the Britishers. Okay, 1909 Government of India Act. Government of India Act was made by the Britishers, where we can call this as Montague-Chelmsford reforms. Okay, but here you need to understand that there was a connecting dot of your history, world history. Let me say World War I from 1914 to 18 was made, and as a part of that, the British promised Indians that in case India is coming to support the ally countries to corner the Ottoman Empire as a part of your World War I, that they promised that Indians are going to give an opportunity to become a part of the associations in each and every department of the British administration. In other words, we can say a responsible form of government is the promise made by the British. And here when we are talking about responsible form of government, it was the fake promise which we realized later, because the political aspirations of Indians were not met. The challenges and demands which we are made were not met. And what British claimed, through 1919 Government of India Act, post World War I. Okay, what happened? The promise they made, what is that? That the responsible form of government can be. In other words, we can say Indians can become the part of the association of each and every department under the British administration was not fulfilled 100%. And hence we Indians call that as a partial form of responsible form of government. And hence, what are the important points here in the sense, for the first time in India, the central and provincial list was got separated. In other words, you can say this was the first step taken by the British to introduce the concept of federal structure in India. But it is the first step, not the final step. Final step falls under 1935 Government of India Act. But 1919 is that act which started to seed with the name called federal structure in India, and hence central and provincial subjects were separated. Diarchy was introduced in the provincial governments. Okay, Diarchy was introduced in the provincial governments, and the executive councillors being charged is reserved list, and ministers in the charge was transferred to the major subjects. In other words, simply for the examination, you need to remember the system of portfolio was got introduced for the first time, and hence the question for the day for you candidates, who was called as the father of portfolio system in India? Okay, is it your Chelmsford or your Montague? So try to go and get the answer which was already listed, which was already provided for you people as a part of our materialistic support. Okay, so now coming back, the ministers were nominated from different regions as the elected members of the Legislative Council and were responsible for the legislature directly. Okay, not only that, a bicameral structure was got introduced for the first time in India. What do you mean by bicameral structure? Bicameral structure is having two types of houses. One is called your lower house, one is called your upper house. Okay, lower house generally called as the people's house, where direct elected representatives could be seen as a part of this, where upper house was called as the house of the states. Okay, house of the states, where indirect form of elections could be possible. So like this, if we have two types of bodies, two types of legislative thing, then we can call this as the bicameral structure. Okay, so this is what the points were. Okay, now try to understand that this so-called bicameral structure is very, very important in the context of understanding the Indian parliamentary system as well as the state legislative system as well. And hence, for the first time, bicameral structure got introduced through your 1919 Government of India Act is more important, authenticated, linked to your upcoming topics to discuss. Okay, not only that, it mandated 3 members of the Viceroy's Executive Council to be Indians. It is mandatory 3 members should be a part of Viceroy's Executive Council. And this act for the first time, established Public Service Commission in India with a purpose to recruit the Indians into the public services, especially the civil services. And finally, this act extended the right to vote, with this of about 10% of the population of India got that opportunity to utilize their right to vote, 10% of the population. So these are the most important points of your 1919 Government of India Act. But we Indians rejected this Government of India Act 1919. We protested till 2 years, and hence this act got introduced, implemented in the year 1921. Okay, from 1921 this act got introduced. I hope I am clear. So this is what the point, After this, what happened, After this, what happened, Protests started in India as this act is not fulfilling the aspirations of Indians, and hence 1927 is that year where your Simon Commission got appointed. Okay, Simon Commission got appointed. 1927 Simon Commission got appointed to look into the issues of 1919 Government of India Act and how far it is being implementing and why the Indians are not satisfied and why these Indians are protesting against the British. So to look into that issue, Simon Commission got appointed, but no Indian was seen as a member of the Simon Commission, and hence we started a slogan, Simon Go Back, and that is how we expressed our opinion on your Simon Commission. Okay, and for the first time officially, even your INC declared that we want Swaraj. So official declaration, official demand by your INC for the Swaraj also made possible, and based on that itself, 1928 Nehru report came into picture for Constitution. Nehru report for the evolution of Constitution, and that is how your 1919 we could end. And after this, slowly 1928 Nehru report completed. 1930 Purna Swaraj Day we celebrated, saying that we are independent, we are nowhere under the British. We directly demanded, we directly protested, and all the unions of India, including your INC moderates and extremists, started to merge, and the support of your minority groups, let me say your Muslim Indian All India Muslim League also came forward to support, and we can see all these under your Gandhian era, where Gandhiji was turned as a national leader right from your Champaran Satyagraha. After that, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, phase 1, phase 2, and finally 1930s, what came into picture? Lot of pressure on the British, and finally British introduced 1935 Government of India Act, where for the first time federal came into picture. Federal structure came into picture, and hence you need to understand Indian federal structure here, because to understand the center-state relations, 1935 Government of India Act is more important. Not only for center-state relations to understand, Amma, but also 80 to 85% of our Indian constitution was got evolved based on your 1935 Government of India Act. So in that concept, let us understand what exactly do we mean by federal structure of polity. Okay, so the point here to remember is, it is a Latin word called feudus. From this, an English word came into picture called federal, and this federal is also called as sometimes treaty. Okay, treaty. So there are some important features. For this federal. Okay, what are those important features of federal structure? And this is important for your examination. The first one is, there shall be one central government, means government at the center. There shall be one state government at the state level. State in the sense for the as a political unit. State as a political unit for administration. Okay, so now this is what the point. The second important point of federal structure, it should have some center-state relations, unique center-state relations. Likewise, in our 7th schedule, as of now, we are having what you know, union list, state list, and concurrent list, and residual powers, and you know what, this union list is nothing but your central list by that time, state list is nothing but the provincial list by that time, concurrent list and residual powers are the same, and finally residual powers were given to viceroy, and as of now, according to 7th schedule, residual powers were given to center. Okay, what do you mean by residual power? What do you mean by all these? In the sense, union list, there are some subjects which were placed, Amma, where only union can make laws, means only parliament can make laws. Likewise, state list, Amma, only state can make laws. Okay, concurrent list, both center and state can make laws. And finally, residual list, Amma, those subjects which does not fall under these three will fall under your residual list. And now, as of now, the Supreme Court of India is having that power, whether a subject falls under residual list or not will be decided, and it is final. Okay, so this is what the point, Amma. And now, the next most important point, Amma, is your judiciary, Amma. Judiciary should be independent. Your federal feature, judiciary should be independent, and this judiciary should have judicial review as its power. What do you mean by judicial review? At the time of fundamental rights, we can discuss majorly, but here keep a point in your mind. Judicial review is the power of the court to decide whether a law made by the parliament or the state legislatures are constitutionally valid or not. If it is not valid, to say that it is nullified is the power of your court. Okay, so judicial review is that, and this so-called concept, Amma, this so-called concept we derived from Professor A.V. Dicey's concept. Professor A.V. Dicey concept, under the theory proposed by him, the theory of principles of natural justice, the theory of principles of natural justice. So this is what your Professor A.V. Dicey's theory was. So these are the important characteristic features for the federal structure, and based on this, Amma, in India they introduced public service commissions called Union Public Service Commission, let me say Federal Public Service Commission, state, nothing but Provincial Public Service Commission. Okay, Provincial Public Service Commission, likewise Joint Public Service Commission. Not only that, for the first time, all those high courts which got introduced, as a part of your 1861 Indian Councils Act was made available, and one Supreme Court, let me say Federal Court, was got established at Delhi. as its center. Not only that, Imperial Bank of India, as of now RBI we can call, based on your committee reports, Youngton committee reports, RBI means Imperial Bank of India was also established first at Bombay, later on it shifted in the year 1937 to your Bombay. First at Calcutta, shifted to Bombay in 1937. Okay. Likewise, the central powers were completely divided, state powers were completely divided, and residual powers were given as a power to your viceroy itself, and this is what exactly the points were. Not only that, it completely abolished the Indian Council, which was established where federal court was already there. Okay, and this act continued until it was replaced with our Indian Constitution. Keep this point in your mind. Okay, so this is what your 1935 Government of India Act was. And finally, 1939 came, your Second World War scenario, and the impact and the role played by India as a part of your history you could complete. And finally, post World War II, 1947 is that year Indian Independence Act was made available. Okay, Indian Independence Act 1947. Okay. 1947. As a part of this, there are some points to remember here. Okay, what are those important points here? 1947, in the sense India declared independent and sovereign. But here you need to understand, the viceroy and governors were made constitutional heads. The viceroy and governors were made as constitutional heads. And this act is under the viceroy of your Mountbatten. Okay, Mountbatten. And hence we can call this act as Mountbatten Plan. And this plan was given by Mountbatten in June 3rd. 1947, and hence we can also call this as June 3rd Plan. And according to this, there are 3 points to remember. The dominion status was given for both India and Pakistan, and as a part of that, please do understand that this so-called Indian domain was declared independent, and it was given an opportunity, a freedom of choice for the so-called princely states by that time, either to join the Indian Union or Indian Dominion, either to join the Pakistan Dominion or to become independent. Okay, independent. And there the role of your Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel came into picture, where moreover 580 or 560 or some will say 530 princely states, they got united they accepted to become the part of your Indian Union, and that is how we can say that dominion status was provided. And now there are only 3 important regions, princely states, which declared that they are independent. Either they were not interested either to join in the Indian Union or in the Pakistani Dominion. And what are those? Your Jammu and Kashmir, and later on your 370 article came into picture, and now it was revoked. No 370 article. Okay, and now the second one is your Junagadh. Over a period of time, India got completely annexed that region. Not only that, your Hyderabad, the state of Hyderabad under Nizam, and over a period of time, through your Operation Polo, even Hyderabad also got annexed into the mainland of India, into the Union of India. Okay, so this is what the most important points with respect to 1947 Act. And hence I request you people to go through the material, that other supportive points which you could develop the sense of understanding the connecting dots of our Indian polity. So this is the module, first chapter as a part of our discussion, and I hope I am clear with all these acts right from 1773 to 1947 Indian Independence Acts. Okay, so this is the topic of historical background of Indian Constitution, where each and every point with the perspective of examination you need to remember. Rest of the points just have a look. Keep that aside, and this is exclusively for your examination. And in our next class we are going to discuss about the next important chapters of our Indian polity. Until then, I am signing off. Take care, have a good day. Thank you.